Pro here. Today we review an IPA and discuss protesters. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill.
Hey, what's on your mind today?
What's on my mind is we need to keep this show short. I have some protest signs to make.
Protest signs?
Yes.
What are you going to protest?
Well, there's been talk about running the maglev underground train from D.C. to Baltimore under my neighborhood, and I stand for it. Deeply passionate about this.
Okay. So what's wrong with the maglev train?
Well, it's dangerous.
Why is it dangerous?
Because it leads to deadly things.
Like what? I mean, if it's underground, we'd probably not have as many people getting run over by the train.
Well, sinkholes. Anyway.
And aren't you always complaining about traffic on the BW Parkway? Wouldn't this alleviate some of that?
Property values. Mad about that.
Property value. What about property values?
Well, it will affect the value of my property.
How do you know? Because if people have access to this train, it might give them more access to other places, which would increase your property value.
Well, Bill, the guy I'm making the signs with, told me that it would.
Oh. I think maybe you don't know a whole lot about this topic.
Well, maybe I don't. But it makes me feel good.
To protest.
Yes.
Because that's what we were trained in schools, to grow up to be protesters and leave our mark on the world, right? Even if we don't
I'm glad we see eye to eye on this.
Yes, the important thing is to be active and to say your mind, even if your mind is full of rocks. But that's
all right. Let's fill my mind up with some juice here. Some thinking juice.
Hare Chaser. Now, hare as in rabbit. What is the difference between a hare and a rabbit? By the way, do you know?
There must be something.
Yeah, there's got to be. I don't know.
Longer ears.
I'm not sure what it is, but this is Hare as in Rabbit Chaser Grapefruit IPA.
Okay. And
it says it actually has grapefruit in it. So you can get grapefruit flavor from hops, but this one says it has grapefruit.
And it is, this is a flying dog?
I can definitely taste grapefruit.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a common... There are some hops that impart a grapefruit style flavor that some people like and some people don't. And I think it's fine in some beers. This is 6.2% alcohol. Grapefruit IPA. Flying Dog's a good brewery.
Yeah.
And
it's just a little bit more than you could get. You could get something close to that just from maybe Cascade.
Yeah.
Just got a little something extra.
Yeah, a little extra, and it has a nice flavor. I like it. It's not as fruity as a Radler, but but
and it doesn't have that artificial chemical taste.
What was that beer we had? We had a whole bunch of them from some 12-pack you got. And it tasted like they just poured a bunch of chemicals out of the lab into the thing.
It did. That was I don't want to disparage them because I want them to keep sending us beer.
That's right. Exactly.
Just not that one.
That's not those. Yeah. Actually, they do a good job on everything else, just not on those. But yeah, this is well done, Flying Dog. You guys do good work.
All right.
Okay, so protesters.
Presumably, just go with presumably here. Our smartest young people are on college campuses, and then there's a hierarchy of those campuses. So our Ivy Leagues. Let's just their SAT scores and basic IQ.
Yeah. Except is that I understand where you're going with this, but I would say nowadays I'm not sure the smartest people are going to college.
Yeah,
because a lot of people would realize it's a bad deal and they might do something else. But anyway, yes, presumably we're taking from the intellectual elite, and they're the ones who are going to college.
Okay, and presumably, if these students were willing to walk out of class, ruin their schools, jeopardize their education,
jeopardize their future,
clash with police to protest an injustice, then they must be passionate about the matter.
Yeah, you would think, yeah.
And it would also be, presumably, to be passionate about an injustice, you'd expect them to be well informed on said injustice.
Well, you would sort of expect that.
You would sort of expect that, but it's staggeringly not true.
Yes. So I've heard some people say that for a lot of college students, protesting is like a substitute for religion. Like they don't have church to go to. They don't have anything else like that, so they go to protests because that's like their thing to do.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, I definitely want to get to that. Let's talk about the staggering ignorance when it comes to specifically Israel, Gaza, right?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So it's just... how do you become committed to a cause that you literally do not understand?
Right.
But we'll get into that. Let's just talk about the ignorance now.
Right, yeah.
And we're going to bring in the Ben Franklin players.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah,
yes. They're going to perform a little skit.
Okay.
Unfortunately, neither of the roles is very good.
Okay.
We have Lady Maga, a gay man drag queen,
dressed as like a fairy godmother.
pro-Israel.
Yes.
And a pro-Palestine
moron,
frumpy rainbow skirt wearing college dimwit.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you be Lady Maga.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Yeah.
I will be. At least you got one. You got one positive attribute going.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Ben Franklin
here we
plays. Would you say you're pro-Palestine or pro-Israel?
Pro-Palestine.
As a gay man, I would be punished and or put in prison or killed if I were openly gay in Palestine. How do you react to that?
I didn't know that. So
it is illegal to be gay in Palestine. You are punished by prison or death.
So let me get this straight. In Israel?
No. Oh. Israel has gay pride. Israel is completely open to lesbian and gay people. Palestine puts them in prison or kills them. You weren't aware of that?
I was not aware of that. No. So yes, that does pose an interesting aspect.
Have you seen Queers for Palestine, the Queers for Palestine movement? It's a very common movement, but I don't see any Muslims for Queers movement.
Yes, that's where it gets gray, right? Like that's where I feel...
For me, it's not gray. Huh? I'm fearful of Islam because there is no Islamic country on earth that embraces me as a gay man.
Okay, okay. Let me. I'm a little confused here because Israel, which is still an Islam country, right?
No, Jewish.
Oh, okay. So then,
what? Israel's Jewish Palestinians are Islamic?
Well, you see, that's where you kind of got me. Never mind. Okay, so would you like to reveal a little about this? This is a brilliant script that you would expect to be written by the
players. Yes, because this is the kind of quality that you would get out of the Ben Franklin players. It turns out, though,
it's just an actual man on the street.
We actually saw
a gay fairy tale on the street
interviewing this frumpy, stupid woman, and it was pretty astonishing.
It's staggering.
Yeah, you don't know that Israel is Jewish?
I mean, if you've actually heard of the country, you can't find it on a map, that's fine. But can you give me one interesting fact about it? Mm-hmm. Well, if you do just one thing, you'd be like, oh, that's where all the Jews live. Right? That would have to be the one thing. You don't know that much, yet you're willing to go on the street
and
protest and be interviewed about your knowledge of this situation.
The Queers for Palestine thing, a thing that you see on social media from time to time, is you see these Queers for Palestine, and you say, so who's going to tell them?
That's a great reaction. So we've got a few angles here because I mean, I'm sure during Vietnam there are plenty of people who were just in for the groovy hippie stuff.
Sgo to the protest to meet some girls.
I'm no doubt there was some of that going on, but you did know something. You did think you did know that we were at war. Yes. You did know that
people were being drafted.
Yes, and these young men were going there, being killed. Didn't want to be there. You know, maybe you can't find it on the map or nothing, but you know what...
I think they actually knew a bit back then. I mean, because people had better education back in those days, and they probably knew where Vietnam was. But now, people say, from the river to the sea, they don't know what river, they don't know what sea. They don't have any idea what they're talking about.
No, can I share with you some stats about that?
Okay.
So there's a professor at the University of California, a professor of political science and Israel studies, who did... commissioned a survey, and so they supported the chant from the river to the sea. Some enthusiastically so, that's 33%.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, 53%. So now we're up in the 80s here.
Okay. Yeah.
Turned out that just 47% of those knew which river and which sea. Some thought it was the Nile or the Euphrates. Okay. Some thought that the river was the Dead Sea, the Atlantic, or the Caribbean, which are...
The Caribbean, sure. That would be a big Palestine.
And surprisingly, are not rivers.
Yes.
So, yes. fewer than 25% knew who Yasser Arafat was, and 10% thought he was Israel's first prime minister.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, he was a good first prime
and
minister.
a quarter thought that the Oslo peace accords were never signed. And so the professor reacted that the hope to discourage extremism is only going to come with good teachers joining the fray to combat bias with education. These teachers who are
just teaching some basic facts.
These teachers who are excusing the kids from class.
Right.
You don't want to spend 5 minutes to explain what's actually going on? I mean, you're an educator
and possibly giving them extra credit for going to the to the protest. Oh yeah, sure. You want the extra thing? Okay, you get automatically pass your next test because that's more important. Protesting is more important than actually learning anything.
Yes.
And there is that attitude. I remember in college, one of my professors, and this was back in the 1920s, but one of my professors said, "Oh, it's good to be involved," and I'm like, well, I remember at the time thinking, why? Why is it good to be involved? I mean, doesn't it matter what you're involved in? Like,
no, he was just loosely stating.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be involved. Well, no, I don't agree with that because you might be involved in promoting something that's awful.
Yeah.
What if you're promoting eugenics or something like that? It's good to be involved. No, it's not. You should stay home, please.
Yeah, ultimately, it's just like, all right, we need to get out the vote. We really mean get out the Democrat vote.
Yeah.
And in this case, it means, protesting is good. Okay, we're going to the anti-abortion rally. Not that kind of protesting.
We don't like that kind of protesting.
Yeah.
That's right. So speaking of anti-abortion rallies, compare the way people who protest abortion are treated versus the way people who protest the U.S. position on Israel are treated. So somebody who prays outside an abortion clinic gets arrested, thrown in jail for 5 years, and somebody who spray paints monuments, publicly destroys property, burns the flag, assaults police officers, and they don't get anything.
No, well, that's free speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or burning flags is free speech.
And as much as I hate it, burning a flag is free speech. I mean,
yes, but isn't disapproving, isn't doing a wheelie on a gay pride walkway?
Yeah, that will get prosecuted.
That is federal hate crime.
Yeah. Also, though, I need to modify my statement about burning flags. If you bring your own flag and burn it, that's free speech.
That's
if
true.
you take somebody else's flag and burn it, that's theft.
Right.
Yeah.
But you still deserve derision. And,
yes, exactly. And I would punch you in the face for doing it.
Yes, you're free from punishment, but you're not free from criticism. Mm-hmm. So, remember when the end of history came?
Yeah.
In the late 80s,
yes.
And so they're like, okay, we did this. We arm wrestled for 75 years.
We won.
And we won. So now that we know that the only really decent system, imperfect as it is liberal democracy, and communism is garbage.
Yeah, it's all over, and we're going to skate for the rest of eternity.
So here we go. But it had already been so entrenched in universities that it never went away. In fact, it's done nothing but grow. This Marxism, which is the foundation of communism, but it's all the same thing.
There's probably more Marxism now than especially in America.
I mean,
than there was 50 years ago.
There were a few people, who would occasionally fly like a Vietnamese flag.
Bet you got a commie flag tagged up on the inside of your garage.
Very, very rarely. They were still flying American flags.
Yeah.
We love America, and we love our boys, we love our men, and we want them home. Right? Not these morons.
Mm-hmm.
So the Marxist aspect of it is the reductionist view of the world, which is everything is victimizer, oppressed and oppressor.
Yes.
And when it didn't work out for them the way that when the oppressed workers of the world did not rise up against the elite, because their lives kept getting better. They got unions, they got good jobs, got safety conditions. They're like, well, we don't need to overturn this thing. It's going pretty good.
Yeah.
However, our smart university elites clung to it, and they repackaged it.
I was listening to a conversation today about how a lot of the pathologies in late teenager, young adult people might come from things that they should have learned in childhood that they didn't. And one of those things, it's just taking care of
everything I learned. I learned in kindergarten. I mean, every important value that I learned. Yeah.
So I was playing with one of the grandkids the other day, and playing with blocks, and trying to build something. And nothing that a little boy likes better than to knock down whatever you try to build with blocks. That's destruction is more fun than construction, and you have to learn that anybody can knock something down, but it actually takes some skill to build something. And that's something you have to learn.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of people haven't learned that basic, 3-year-old kind of reality. And they think that by destroying everything, something good is going to magically rise out of the ashes.
Yeah, right. You're going to make some. Well, you are making an impact on the world by destroying.
Yeah.
But is that the impact you want to make on the world?
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm mattering.
I think people don't realize how thin the line is between society and order and prosperity and health and absolute chaos where people are killing one another. And it's a relatively thin line, and we can easily cross that line.
It's getting thinner.
Yes, it is getting thinner. And these people who think, let's just burn it all down. Well, okay, once you've burned it all down, what do you think is going to happen then?
Do you have a plan?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No,
you don't.
Yeah.
So once you've reduced everything to oppressed and oppressor, basically everybody who is a loser is the good guy,
right?
And everybody who's the winner is the bad guy. So what we have in this specific situation is, in their minds, if you have an historical grievance, then any act of violence is justified by you towards the aggressor, towards the oppressor, and you're insulated from any retaliation.
Yes. So in other words, a bunch of crazy people can go into Israel and murder and rape and slaughter children and all that kind of stuff, and then Israel's supposed to just take it and not do anything in response.
Yeah. It's this. So it goes back. It goes back to the recent BLM, DEI. This is repack. It did the economic balance thing didn't work, so we're going to use oppressed in a racial aspect.
Yeah.
And this terrible idea that where I see disparity, I see racism. So, if you don't have the exact percentage of astrophysicists, then astrophysics itself is racist. That whole thing. So, if you see this highly successful, highly motivated, intellectually focused nation that is prospering, and a bunch of hellholes, Muslim hellholes, well, the only explanation is oppressor oppressed.
So this whole oppressor versus oppressed narrative reminds me of certain kinds of psychological manipulation that people use, where someone will say something along the lines of, "You're trying to control me," or something like that, okay? And there's no response to that. Or someone says, "You're a racist." There's no response to that, because anything that you say will be interpreted as being racist, or anything you say will be interpreted as trying to control.
That's just what a racist would say.
Yeah, exactly.
Any defense of yourself.
Yes.
Is just what white fragility.
So oppressed versus oppressor is exactly the same way, because there's no way to respond to I think there's like a class of things that are like that, and I'd like to think about this a little more and try to come out with a better explanation of the concept. But it seems to me there are certain ways of manipulation that are like manipulation from below, manipulation from a assumed point of weakness.
Yeah,
where you're telling the other person that they're being mean or they're doing this, and there's nothing they can possibly do to get themselves out of that accusation.
Yes. Muslim failure can only be explained by Jewish conspiracy.
Yes.
If this team won, well, they must have cheated.
Yeah.
And so actually, the losers, maybe we should just start getting prizes for, well, we do. It's called participation trophies. But prizes go to the losers, and we all know that the winners are necessarily bad guys. It's the only explanation for disparity.
Yes.
So once you've internalized this and you've been raised on this,
it's very self-destructive.
Right. So this question of how in the world is this going on? Well, we're starting to get somewhere with the explanation of. So because I bet there are more Nobel Prize winners that live in Tel Aviv than the entire Muslim world for the entire 100 years of the Nobel Prize.
Probably so. Yeah.
And that's part of the Jewish conspiracy.
Right.
For your lack of success.
That's right. Yeah. Because the Jews are going around and finding intelligent Muslims in like Cairo and stuff and murdering them.
That's what the Mossad really does.
That's right. Yeah. They find the really smart Muslims around the world and kill them to make sure that they don't get Nobel Prizes.
Yes. Yeah. To keep them from living in clean, safe, prosperous nations.
That's what they're doing. Those Jews, they're really sneaky like that.
It is the Jews. Yeah. I heard, to your point you made earlier, there was this professor sharing a conversation that he had with a student who said, "I want to protest. I just need to find a good cause."
Right, so just the lure of throwing a Molotov cocktail,
Yes. Yeah. So how does the impulse all right, so a passion for an injustice against an injustice drives your actions. Yeah. But actually to have the action precede.
Yeah. I think I can sort of understand that. And here's the way I would try to explain that. This person is convinced that the structure of the world is messed up in multiple different ways. Like, the world is just really messed up. And they need to find, like, which of the multiple ways that it's messed up they should focus their attention on.
Well, I need one that rings true for me.
Satisfies me.
Which is actually a little bit better than this one, which is, well, all the cool kids are doing it. Which is about the extent of it.
And that hot chick in the other class, she's going to be there. So,
right. Yeah. And oppression itself has got such cachet that at this point, people who are totally 100% not oppressed, right? That's where this whole ally and adjacency comes from. It's like, well, I'm not personally offended or bothered by any of these things, but I need to get some oppression points. And I'm not actually oppressed. But if I, like the stupid queers for Palestine who think that, well, we're the same because we're in the oppressed matrix, and without knowing one damn thing about it, and if we could only give them one-way plane tickets to show their support, it would be fantastic.
Why don't you take your Queers for Palestine signs and go to Palestine and see what happens to you. Yeah, but there's no Palestine. Go to Gaza and see what happens to you.
But the earlier point about lack of meaning.
Yeah.
Right. That's that. There's no religion.
Yeah.
There's no commitment to anything great.
Yeah.
And you see a chance to put some meaning in your life.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that the atheist materialist types really don't understand.
I know.
Is that people have a thirst for meaning and purpose, and they want their life to matter. They want the things that they believe in to matter. They want it to be more than just, this is my opinion, and this is more, what I hear from my friends. They want it to be something.
Sam would say, yes, you get that through reason, and you get that through, committing yourself to some other good.
Yeah.
But but that's at first blush, I like the idea, but the reality isn't true.
It doesn't work. There are, of course, certain people who are committed to truth, who are committed to finding out what's real, and they genuinely want to believe what they think is true. And that gives meaning to their lives. And there are some people like that. But that's not the majority of the human race.
Yes, plenty of individuals that you could point out. But when you look at a society,
it's not going to work. Yeah.
Not everybody is going to go out and find that thing, and there is some sort of spiritual hole
Yeah.
that is not getting fulfilled broadly when you're speaking about a culture.
Right.
That is not going to be fulfilled by working for your life at an animal shelter, which is a fantastic thing and might give you all kinds of warm and fuzzy feelings. These bozos have chosen not something good, but glomming on to this Marxist oppression nonsense because they've been trained that way because they all have useless degrees and have been taught that this is where you get meaning in your life, being an activist.
They've been taught from elementary school on that being an activist and protesting and going out and going rah-rah for some cause, that gives meaning to your life. And that's what they think is important. And it's like church for them. That it is a religion for them. And it's really... It's
a lame substitute.
It is a lame substitute. Yeah.
So I had this little... Let's make this a shorty.
Okay.
This little meme here where somebody took the Queers for Palestine sign and put it on top of a BBC News headline. Can you help me out here?
Okay, so Queers for Palestine, we have the usual suspects on the top. And then right below that, gay Palestinian Ahmad Abu Mariah beheaded in West Bank.
Yes. So he wasn't kicked out of the mosque.
Right.
He wasn't jeered at on the street. He wasn't even put in jail for 30 days.
Right.
It's just we're going past all of it.
Straight to
beheading.
Straight to beheading.
Yeah. So good job, queers.
So okay, I do have a letter to the show. And it comes from Bongino Fan 31.
Yes.
Okay. Bongino Fan says, the evidence the Trump assassination was part of a government conspiracy is getting harder and harder to deny. What do you think about that?
We talked about this recently, and we said, if you're simply looking at the facts, the number of bizarrely... this monumental level of bungling.
Right. Yeah.
I completely understand people going in that direction.
Yes.
But you and I were like, all right, I'm just not willing to go there.
Right. Yeah.
And
it's kind
so,
of like
Bongino, I'm going to resist it, but I 100% get what you're saying.
Totally. It's like, okay, yes, you did leave the back door unlocked, knowing that there was a predator in the backyard. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. And yes, you did dismiss the servants in the downstairs so that they weren't around to see this person coming.
Right.
Yes, I did do that.
You turned off the alarm system for no particular reason.
Yes. And you left a loaded gun sitting on the on the table in the room just outside where the master was sleeping.
And you're asking me to believe that this was all coincidence and there was no plan whatsoever to kill Colonel Mustard in the drawing room.
Yes. Right? And it's getting to be almost that bad. It's getting, and still I'm clinging to. No, it was incompetence because I'm following Hanlon's razor.
Right.
That never attribute to malice, which you contribute to incompetence, and I'm still willing to say.
But I tell you what, that incompetence level is really rising to the point where
it's getting very hard.
Only because I also think they're too incompetent to actually pull off the parts. So then that kind of brings me back down to insanity.
Yeah.
But a Bongino fan. You have a fine point, and I'm not going to try to talk you off that bridge just yet.
Yeah, but I think...
Please don't.
But yeah, we need to assume that's not the case until it just becomes overwhelmingly clear.
Yes. And if there was a straight-up smoking gun, I would not be floored.
No.
I would be crushed.
Come on. Let's just look at it from this perspective. So they tried to convince everybody that he was Hitler. They tried to convince everybody he was a threat to democracy. That didn't work. So they tried to put him in jail.
Yeah.
They tried to get rid of all his money. They tried.
Yes.
They tried. They tried all this lawfare. They've tried everything they could possibly do. And then you can picture Joe Biden sitting in his office saying, "Will someone rid me of this troublesome man?"
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can see the progression, and you can see how trying to kill him would fit in that progression. But I'm not willing to go there, and I think it's still just incompetence.
But I have nothing insulting to say about Bongino fan.
No.
I understand why you think that. I'm just not joining you yet.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.